Hello everyone, how are you? Return of Ukrainian flag to Crimea will mean arrival of European Union there. Zelensky. The return of the Ukrainian flag to Crimea will mean the arrival of the European Union on the peninsula in the full sense of these words, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said. I will convey to you today's important developments. And I'll look into what might be on the map. If you want the war to end, I would appreciate it if you like the video and comment. Don't hold back your support and let's show our stance. Speaking online at the Crimea Platform Parliamentary Summit on Tuesday. The arrival of the Ukrainian flag in Crimea as the arrival on the peninsula of the European Union in the full sense of these words, of all levels of our integration, he said. The return of the Ukrainian flag to Crimea as the return of the usual European normalcy, safe, social, cultural. These are huge opportunities for development. All this does not exist in Crimea now, it cannot be. Russia has deprived our peninsula of development, the president said. The return of the Ukrainian flag is the protection of human rights, freedom for all people in Crimea, for all communities, he stressed. To achieve this goal, Zelensky said, we need sufficient support, defense, financial, sanctions, as the foundation for the future of Crimea. Then, when we reach our borders, we will need your experience, on security, political, legal, social planes, he said, addressing the summit participants. This will be necessary in order to return a full life to Crimea, and I want justice for people in Crimea, Zelensky stressed. We must make our format a start for other humanitarian and political platforms, promote the de-occupation of other territories, from Transnistria to the Northern Territories, 4 Kuril Islands, the president said. Promise me that you will definitely visit our Ukrainian Crimea as soon as we return the national flag there, Zelensky also said, addressing the summit participants. Occupiers call on people to join territorial defense in Kherson, but there are no takers. The Russians are calling on all the people to join the so-called territorial defense forces in Kherson Oblast, however nobody in Kherson is willing to risk their lives for the invaders. Quote, while the Russians are telling people about 87% support cast in sham referendum and the crimes of the so-called Kiev regime, for some reason no one is willing to defend the people's power. The occupiers' propagandists are walking around the city and spreading leaflets to no avail. Details. The National Resistance Center has emphasized that the residents of occupied Kherson Oblast are not willing to go to war for the occupiers. This demonstrates once more the true level of support that the Russians enjoy in Kherson and the Oblast. From the very beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, queues of people wanting to defend their homeland appeared throughout the entire country. Civilian men, armed only with Molotov cocktails as their weapons, fought the Russian soldiers in Kherson on the 1st of March. The National Resistance Center reminded that on that occasion the Russians had killed over 20 heroes in the Buzkovy Park in Kherson. In Melitopol, an explosion occurred near a building belonging to the collaborator Balitsky in temporarily occupied Melitopol. An explosion occurred near the business center, which belongs to collaborator Yevhen Balitsky. This was reported by the local media and Russian propagandists. The lawmaker pointed out that Russia had warned the international community about a possible catastrophe and is making every possible effort to prevent it. In this case, attempts to find excuses, shrug the issue off and shift the blame are putting the West on par with the Kyiv-based nuclear terrorists, Slutsky emphasized. Chief of Russia's Radiation, Chemical and Biological Protection Troops Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov told a news briefing on Monday that the Defense Ministry had put its forces and resources in a state of readiness for action, in a situation of radioactive contamination, based on intel about Kyiv's plot for using a dirty nuclear bomb. The dirty bomb threat was also mentioned by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who said that Moscow intended to bring up Kyiv's attempts to create such weapons at the United Nations. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu earlier held phone talks with his counterparts from the United States, Great Britain, Turkey and France, warning them about the dirty bomb threat emanating from Ukraine. Ukrainian military will receive 11 Pumala unmanned systems. Ukraine is purchasing 11 Pumala unmanned systems for the armed forces of Ukraine. The purchase would take place through the Army of Drones project. Mikhailo Fedorov, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, announced this. Outside of the Pumala drones, The Ukrainian military will also receive LRTA antennas for them, sustaining a longer range of controlled flight. The total value of the transaction is 541.67 million Ukrainian hryvnias. The minister noted that due to the long-range tracking antenna, LRTA, drones would be able to cover a distance of up to 60 kilometers. Such a distance will help our defenders sneak into the rear of the enemy, Mikhailo Fedorov emphasized. He also added that these drones' flight duration is about 6 hours, and the flight altitude is up to 3 kilometers. This makes them invisible to the invaders. Puma was created by AeroVironment. It has a wingspan of 4.6 meters and a total length of 2.2 meters, together with the installed changeable Mantis I-45 optical electronic system. UAV's takeoff weight is 10.7 kg. It can operate in flight for 6.5 hours using an additional Puma Smart 2500 battery. The drone can be equipped with a long-range tracking antenna, which would support flights at a distance of up to 60 kilometers. Progressive Democrats undercut Biden's Ukraine strategy, calling for diplomacy, citing cost of war, risk of nuclear weapons. Russia's invasion has caused incalculable harm for the people of Ukraine, leading to the deaths of countless thousands of civilians, Ukrainian soldiers, and displacement of 13 million people, the House Democrats argued. The conflict threatens an additional tens of millions more worldwide, as skyrocketing prices in wheat, fertilizer, and fuel spark acute crises in global hunger and poverty. The conflict has also contributed to elevated gas and food prices at home, fueling inflation and high oil prices for Americans in recent months. But at the same time, I can't tell you that they are running away from Kherson right now. No, there is no such thing. They are making preparations so that, if necessary, they can get out very quickly. However, they are not preparing to leave now, they are preparing for defense, the head of the directorate said. Budanov considers the message about the evacuation from Kherson to be an information operation, a manipulation. On the contrary, they are bringing new military units there and preparing the city's streets for defense. Russians abducting children from occupied Enerhodar against their parents. Will some residents of the occupied town of Enerhodar, host to the occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and surrounding villages, who sent their children to Russia's Krasnodar Krai for a vacation, have received a message that their children will stay in Russia for an indefinite period, the local mayor Dmytro Orlov said on the Telegram Messenger on October 23. The Russians ordered parents to hand over warm clothes, adding that their children would go to Russian schools. In fact, children are now held hostage by terrorists, Orlov said. And if one part of the parents is not scared at all, the other is frankly shocked by the development of events. Earlier on October 15, Orlov said that invading Russian forces had begun abducting children from Enerhodar to Russia's Krasnodar Krai, calling it a vacation trip. The mayor warned the front line in the Kherson, and later in the Zaporizhzhia areas could be cut at any moment, while further intense battles would simply block all ways back. Thousands of Ukrainian children have been forcibly abducted by Russian forces. In many cases, these children are adopted by Russian families, and forced to abandon their previous families, lives, and Ukrainian identities, according to multiple media reports. By the standards of international humanitarian law, this constitutes an act of genocide. Thanks for listening. See you the next video.